talking about the immediate mechanism, my man.
It's my man.
Get rich and famous, my man.
Big dog, my man.
I'm perfectly.
Loosen up. Get those balls. Loosen them up a little bit, my man.
Wow.
My man, but like the way Denzel Washington says it.
I'm sorry, my man, the way Denzel Washington.
Well, let the record show the witness means my man.
Don't take things too seriously, my man.
My man.
Whatever you want to do, my man. I'm having a good time.
I'm glad you are.
So I recently had a debate not too long ago with atheist YouTuber Skylar Fiction, and it was, let's just say he gave us a lot of content to work with, especially when you consider the fact that I would explain things multiple times to him, and he just wasn't tracking, even when I would answer the question multiple times in a row.
So, I'm sorry, do you agree? Is the methodology useful? Does it work? Direct question, yes or no?
Yes.
The methodology does work. So the results that they get are correct.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Oh my goodness. That just happened.
So this is, if you're wondering why I'm confused, it's you because you're contradicting yourself.
Okay.
Okay.
But before I had a chance to make my own debate commentary review, in which I was going to expose some of these types of instances, or even some of the just the blatant contradictions and outright hypocrisy that is Skylar Fiction, before I had a chance to do that, he actually came out with a debate review of his own, which pretty much did the work for me and was very telling and ironic, especially when you pair it with another debate review he did of a different opponent, where he entitles it "Stop Being a Crybaby." We'll save that to the end, because trust me, you're going to want to watch that part, because we're going to get to see a little bit of meta Skylar versus Skylar action.
Round one, fight!
But we'll save that to the end.
Your soul is mine.
There's no soul. Doesn't really matter to me.
You fool!
And like I said, you don't want to miss that. But going back, his debate review also gave us insight into the mind of Skylar, and gave us some behind-the-scene kind of a sneak peek into his thought process and things he was thinking prior to the debate, things he was even thinking during the debate, and even his own thoughts on his own debate performance.
Did I have a great debate performance? Absolutely not.
That's really true.
And even what he thought about the debate overall.
It wasn't an enjoyable debate by any means.
But then he'd say stuff like that, which was confusing to me, because let me tell you something. My man was collecting good times.
I just get excited, man. I have a good time. I think we had a lot of fun, too. I think Eric and I pushed each other. But it was fun, and I generally enjoyed the dialogue. But anyways, it was a fun time. I love all you out there. I'm having a good time.
I'm glad you are.
It wasn't an enjoyable debate by any means.
So in this video, I want to use his own debate review as a sort of a guide
Vámonos, amigos.
to measure up what he thought happened in the debate versus what actually did happen in the debate. And you tell me, can you spot any inconsistencies, blatant contradictions, or hypocrisy on Skylar's part? I don't know. Let's see.
I went into this debate.
Oh, and by the way, this is not going to be kid-friendly. So if you have kids around, put them to bed or something. Fair warning.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
I went into this debate I really did want to have like a more genuine, thoughtful kind of thing. It's okay. Did your little testicles go up? Did you get a little nervous or something? Some of the last couple discussions or debates I've had have been a little rough. You're the one talking about me more than the actual debate. You're the one like, stop yelling, stop yelling. Yes. Like you're making a dramatic scene like I'm yelling, screaming at the top of my lungs at you. I talk loud, I'm from Philadelphia, brother.
In West Philadelphia, born and raised.
Just deal with it, right? It's been a little more heated where I didn't want it to be heated.
You just talked about my testicles, and you're saying I'm talking about you?
Yes,
Really?
because you're so sensitive. You're like, stop yelling. I'm not even yelling at you, bro. And I was like, you know what? I don't want this to be like that. I really want this one to be different.
I'm perfectly.
Loosen up. Get those balls. Loosen them up a little bit, my man.
Wow.
Get them. Loosen them up. Let's go back to the argument. Let's go.
What happened? Your balls drop off?
Now, what's interesting here is that he actually seems to be cognizant of his behavior and the way he's acting.
I've been told recently that I maybe seem a little angrier, maybe a little bit more aggressive. I don't know. Like, why might I be a little bit more stressed and maybe on edge with people?
Now, that's an excellent question, Skylar. I was curious about that myself.
Listen, I'm not making excuses.
And hey, look, I'm not accusing you of that, my man. No, not for a second. In fact, I'm sure that there's a perfectly rational explanation for your behavior and why you feel this way. And I'm sure it's something that is just unique to you that no one else in the world is dealing with. That is a perfectly reasonable explanation. So while I'm not for a second accusing you of making excuses, I'm still curious as to why you act that way and the reasons that you're going to give.
You know, it wouldn't be that maybe there's a mass pandemic happening around the world, and
well, I mean, I live in the same world as you do, so
the global economy is melting down. And
yep, still same world as you.
I have to worry every day that maybe I just might get the
You and me both, my man. Hey, wait a minute. This isn't disinfectant. Smells good though.
maybe locked out in my house 24 hours a day with 2 children, a 9-year-old and a 4-year-old.
Yep, I've got 2 kids myself, including a 2-year-old that can be particularly loud at times. So what else you got?
I have been sick as for 3 days with a food poisoning.
Ah, okay. Well, yeah, no, I can say I haven't dealt with that.
Listen, I'm not making excuses.
Right. No. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. But hey, with that out of the way, then I'm sure you won't ever bring this up again. Now that you've got that out in the beginning of your review, we can move forward, and you don't have to mention that anymore.
I mean, it doesn't matter if you're an
This is me being sick and having not feeling well and not necessarily being all there. I'm not making excuses. I don't know if it was me not feeling well. Listen, I'm not making excuses. I don't know if that says something about me. It may be. But I was struggling. I felt like, listen, I'm not making excuses. Have I been a little bit more irritable lately? Yes. But have I been dealing with people that are a little bit more irritating? Yes. Listen.
You get the idea. But maybe he has a point here. Maybe in this debate, perhaps it was me who was being overly provocative and irritating and condescending and rude. And maybe here, now that he has gathered his thoughts in this debate review, perhaps he's going to now expose me and show everybody where I really went wrong, and maybe even give me some critique and show how I could maybe even do better next time. But perhaps in this debate, he had so much to share and so much insight, profound wisdom to share with us, but he just couldn't because perhaps it was me that was being irritating. So I'm really anxious to see and hear what he has to say, to hear his thought-provoking, well-articulated, philosophically coherent rebuttal to what I had to say, and maybe this debate review is going to expose me, and let's see what he has to say, because I'm really curious at what he's going to focus and touch on in this debate review. I can't wait to see.
Like, look at this slimy motherfucker's face. I'm sorry. I should say stuff. This is what gets me in trouble, is being so aggressive and so offensive like this. But, like, look at that face, bro. Look at this smiling, shit-eating grin this guy's got on his face. And it just bothers me. It just bothers me. Sorry. Look at the smug asshole's face. I'm probably never need another debate because of this. But I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. Fucking smug asshole. Like, look at this asshole's face. Just look at him. Like, look at this smug mother. Sorry, going back.
I'm telling you, this is toned down.
Okay. Wow. What? Those? Yeah. Wow. What words of wisdom? No, thank you, Skylar. Gosh. But wow, 7 times he wanted you to look at my face. So,
Look at that face, just look at it. Look at that fabulous face of yours.
But, you know, I think he has a point here. I mean, do I have a face? Yeah. No, guilty. I do. Do I grin? Yes, I do grin and smile on occasion. Yeah, that's you got me there. You got me there. You got me there. Am I smug? Do I have a smug look? Perhaps, maybe. Or you know, another option to consider is perhaps I'm trying to hold back laughter from all the asinine, childish behavior that I'm hearing from Skylar. I don't know, but I'll leave it to the viewer to decide. I mean, you tell me. What do you think? But yeah, wow, seven times. I mean, quite the obsession with my face. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm flattered. You know, married though, but you know, flattered nonetheless. But that was too good. Let's do that one more, just one more time, and I want you to listen to the passion. It really comes from the heart. The fascination with my face. I mean, just you can really. I mean, the heart sings. You know, from the abundance of the heart, the mouth does speak.
But like,
Saw you there and I thought, oh my God,
look at that face.
You look like my next mistake.
Look at this face.
Look how cute he is.
Yes, he's very cute.
Just look at him.
Look at him. Look at him. Look at him.
Okay.
Look at that face, bro.
Look at it. Look at that face. Come on. Look at that face. You look at him. Look at that face.
Now, another part in his debate review that he complains about in the debate was that I was allegedly coming in to take jabs and digs at him.
He came into this wanting to just get little jabs in wherever he could.
Now, what he seems to be referring to here are two instances in particular where I call him out on questions that I had that are absolutely central to the question and topic at hand of the debate, where he says that he hasn't either put much thought into or come to a conclusion on or studied the issue enough to come to a conclusion on. And the first instance is dealing with free will.
Do you believe that you were freed to come to the beliefs that you have?
It seems that way. I haven't thought about it enough to give you a definite decision that I'm going to die on or a hill I'm going to die on to argue over.
Now listen to the excuse he's going to give.
I'm not making excuses.
I'm sorry. No. Listen to the response that he's going to give, which is not an excuse, but it may sound like an excuse, but it's not an excuse. He's, you know.
Why haven't you thought about it?
I got too much going on in life. I got 2 children, a full-time job, a life,
Yeah.
YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of my point. You do this for a living, and yet you haven't thought about that.
Now, the second instance is when we talk about whether or not immaterial things can exist. So once again, what's his not excuse?
So when you just say, like, why haven't you thought about the million types of gods? It's like the same thing. Why haven't you thought about Zeus? I thought all these things through. Life's busy. I got to do, my man.
Okay, so he's busy. Now, setting aside the fact that he's doing debates on these very topics almost every week, and even doing debate reviews where he apparently has time to talk about my face.
Look at that face, bro.
Setting that aside, okay, fine, he's busy. Then I'm assuming the rest of this debate review is going to be taking the time to use it effectively and efficiently to really talk about the arguments, I hope, at some point, where he's really going to dig in and get deep and philosophical because he's busy and he doesn't have time to waste on these on nonsensical, trivial matters. So let's see how he uses his time to really get at the heart of the issue in the rest of this debate review.
Can we talk about this guy's biopic for just a second? Can we go over to what this guy? First of all, this.
I think I saw that picture with DJ Khaled in one of the videos. Saw that.
DJ Khaled.
Saw that.
Yeah, I don't know if he actually chose that picture or somebody like James just inserted it because they thought it would be funny.
No, that's his website.
That's his actual ministries. This is about his bio. I was going to say, what's the movie Scarface? He kind of has that Scarface kind of look.
Stand up to my little friend.
Hold on. Scarface. Dude, he's got like the lead. Like to sit back.
It's so
There we go. It is hilarious. All right, that's enough of that. All right, let's go back. I gotta share the video again.
Wow, top-notch stuff. That is a good use of time. Wow, yeah, absolutely. Talking about a picture that's 8 years old on a website, in a section of the website I haven't really kept up with. No, that is great. That is good stuff. I mean, wow. But going back to the point that I was initially trying to make with calling him out for not having thought through a couple questions, especially with naturalism, that were quite central to the topic of the debate, especially naturalism, because, see, you have to understand, if naturalism is true, then only physical things would exist. And that would also imply that if God, by definition, is a non-physical entity, then if naturalism is true, by default, God cannot exist. And of course, these things go hand in hand, because then if all you are is a purely physical being, which I argued in the debate, then you can't have libertarian free will, or any type of free will for that matter. So these questions are quite central, and this wasn't some way of me attacking him personally. It's just that to say that you haven't thought through these things, and yet you're doing this so much. I can't help but wonder if you're doing this, even just for a hobby, and spending so much time doing debates almost every week, and you haven't even thought of one of the most central issues to whether or not theism is true. I can't help but wonder how much thought you put into this.
What does that have to do with the argument we were just making a couple minutes ago? Why did we go to just talking about me personally at this point?
And he apparently took this as a jab or dig towards him.
Here's what I'll say about this part. Obviously, this is, once again, this is about the digs. Like, getting the digs in, like, it's not relevant to the debate, right?
I think it's a very relevant point that I was trying to make, is that if you're really serious about these questions and issues, and if you're busy, then don't spend so much time doing this stuff. But if you're genuinely curious, and you're having this debate and discussion.
Now, needless to say, he didn't take too kindly to my advice. And I'm not sure why, because I thought it was good, sound advice.
And then now we've gotten to just saying, you should think more about this or do other things with your time. I don't really care about your opinion on what I should do with my life, my man. I appreciate, we don't know each other. We're not friends, right? You don't have any clue about my life and what goes on.
You don't know my life.
Now, he is obviously triggered again. And here is where Skylar's hypocrisy shines clear as day. Recall the debate review that I mentioned in the beginning of this video, where Skylar did a review of another opponent, and he titled this debate review, "Stop Being a Crybaby." Now, keep in mind the sentiment of being appalled on his face that you just saw, and the reaction that he had, because he apparently thinks people shouldn't give advice to other people on what they should do with their life and their time, because you don't know me like that. You don't know whatever the excuse was, or I know he's not making excuses, but just keep in mind the reaction he had to me saying that once to him. And now I want you to look at the advice that he gives to this debate opponent in a review that he did. And I want you to tell me if you notice any hypocrisy in what Skylar is saying or doing.
Prerogative. Then I'll debate him one or two more times if he starts.
Craig, no, we won't be having any more debates. Let me tell you that, because you can't handle it. You're too emotional. You take things too offensive, and you're not very good at it. Don't debate, Craig. Don't debate. You're not made for this if you can't handle this kind of stuff. All right? That's all I'm going to say.
Now, the hypocrisy and contradictions aside, this really got me thinking that what if Skylar, on my behalf, reviewed his own debate in his own debate review on my behalf? What would that look like? What if you take his same demeanor, behavior, and character, and what if he applied that to himself? What would a possible world look like in which Skylar Fiction debated and reviewed Skylar Fiction on my behalf? Wonder what that would look like.
Thought you'd never ask.
I just upgraded our cable package with programming from every conceivable reality. This is infinite TV from infinite universes. Look.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Skylar Fiction Show. This is a video I didn't want to have to make, but I'm just beyond my level of frustration with the people that I debate with here on YouTube. And what I'm going to talk about today is Skylar Fiction. You might remember I had a debate with Skylar a couple days earlier in a modern day debate. But my real frustration is with Skylar Fiction and how he's approaching all this. He seems to lack basic understanding of how syllogisms work. Well, let me just jump right into it. I wasn't even going to do a very long opening, but now I'll go the whole 10 minutes for you, Eric, and I'll say a lot of things that maybe you will just disagree with. But no Skylar Fiction.
But is this your opening or rebuttal to my position? Because I thought you were going to give an opening.
Why are we interrupting me? Like, seriously, dude. Like, that's not cool. If I'm stopping you, you don't understand. I'm stopping you because I want to understand what you're actually articulating. It's not just to like throw you off your game. But you're right. That was absolutely deliberate. It was a way to score points and just be like, stop being a moron. I'm sorry. Stop being a fucking moron. Okay? It's not just to win a debate. To get some kind of like little jab in, like, you know, trying to set the tone as if I'm not prepared for a debate like this. I'm not prepared to talk to somebody of his level in a discussion. You're just saying I'm a big fat meanie who just hurt your feelings. Did I hurt your feelings, guys? Did I hurt your feelings by making you answer directly and not gish gallop for 5 minutes? Skylar, like, I brought an argument. You didn't fucking deal with it. And now you're complaining to everybody. I can't wait for this video to get back up. And what I found Eric to do is do that quite a bit. And my patience went away. And listen, if you're so sensitive that you can't take the heat from a debate, don't debate people. That's the truth. Did I lose that debate? No. That was not a debate that I lost. Don't bullshit me. Just stop it. That's all I'm saying to you. And to me, like, that, like, frankly, pissed me off. It made me really, really mad. You're in the big boy games now. And if you're going to have a debate on modern day debate, you need to put your big boy pants on. Correct? Right? Stop being so sensitive. Stop being so overly emotional about this. Nobody wronged you. No anything wrong. And I think that's what, you know, made me less like prone to deal with the bullshit. Okay. This isn't for you, Skylar. You're too emotional and too sensitive to this. He came into this wanting to just get little jabs in wherever he could. You notice he's not telling you what I did, right? He's just saying Eric is an asshole. He was too aggressive. What did Eric say that was over aggressive? Was it the fact I came in with an argument? We said enough about it. It's just so much. But this just sets the tone. And people wonder where frustration comes from, why I'm so snippy with some of these people, some of these YouTube Christian apologists. This is why. Oh, we won't be having any more debates. Let me tell you that. Because you can't handle it. You're too emotional. You take things too offensive, and you're not very good at it. You want to get good at it, where I actually feel like I'm being challenged, we'll have another debate. But I'm not doing it again with you after this. As someone who does a lot of debates, like, there are times I go to debates to have fun and win debates, right? If I really just want to win a debate, like, I can pick apart little things and stay on them, and we could waste time the whole debate, and I could win on those technicalities. No, you can't, Skylar Fiction. I've had 2 of them with you. I haven't seen you win a debate. You're not very good at it. And I know this is coming off kind of harsh, but you're not. There are Christians that are good at debates, that are very good debaters. You are not, and you can't win a debate. I really want this one to be different, you know.
I'd say my position is that I would actions to the ancient Near East.
You believe that facts are independent of God.
Yeah, that sounds
good.
That sounds right.
Good. Well, that logically commits you to the denial of the existence of God. So you do deny God exists. So how is it that God doesn't exist?
Yeah, I guess I don't have a problem with denying that God exists. I think that seems like that makes sense.
Do you have rational grounds why there is no God?
It's probably more of an inductive conclusion that I've made than like a deductive one.
Do you have rational grounds why there is no God?
I'm just trying to make sure I understand what you're asking. You're asking me to like prove it?
You've decided, you have adopted a universal negative, which is that all facts do not necessitate referencing the necessity of God. How did you determine that universal negative?
Sorry, I'm trying to piece together what you're asking. How have I made a positive? I don't know. I mean, it sounds like what you're saying that implicitly I've made that a positive.
Are you trying to represent that your atheism is not the denial of the existence of God, but that you're somehow non-committal about the existence of God?
I guess I've never thought about it in those terms. I would say that if you ask me, do I believe that a God exists? No.
Hello?
Yep, you're back.
Am I still on?
Okay, I'm back. It crashed on me.
Oh, okay. I thought it was me.
Okay, so
it crashed on me too.
Okay,
Yeah,
so do you recognize that either your position is the denial of the existence of God, or as commonly is done among atheists, you make a claim that you're just simply non-committal?
I guess what I would say, I mean, again, I'm okay with saying, I generally don't think about it in terms of any God. Although if I think about it in that sense, probably that's the case. Yeah.
So you either recognize your position is the denial of the existence of God, or you're claiming a kind of neutrality, non-committal. Okay, which is your position?
Yeah. I'm okay. Yeah, I'd say my position is that I would be okay saying that there are no gods. I don't know that, right?
Okay.
But I'd be okay
Do you believe that there is no God on rational grounds, or do you just arbitrarily and irrationally assert that there's no God?
I mean, if it's rational to say that,
Wow, it just crashed on me again.
Same.
Discord crashing?
I wonder if we're getting DOS. People don't like this conversation.
You can't get DDoS on a particular server. A server is hosted, multiple servers is hosted on
Right.
one unit.
Right, but there are exploits that are available all the time.
No, they're actually updating a bunch of stuff on Discord. So it's just them updating their servers. It's gonna be like this for a while.
Okay, so
Sorry.
your position is
Oh, I
that
see.
there is no God. So do you have rational grounds that there is no God?
I don't know if I understand specifically what you're asking. So, do you want me to give you? Do you want me to give you my grounds?
Your position is that here we go again.
Just me, or is this the?
No, it's Discord.
Is this the?
It's happening for everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Wow,
Keep looking at my phone,
this is
thinking I'm doing
pretty.
something.
It's pretty cool. It's gonna keep happening a couple more times.
Okay, so what's your
Say
rational
that,
basis that there is no God?
Given what I know about, and I mean, this is all very general, I suppose, thinking about it this way, but given what I know about the world and the way that it works and what I know about, in particular, cultures and religions from the ancient Near East, where, again, the Hebrew Bible sort of comes from.
Well, setting aside people's faulty reasoning in the past, okay, what I'd like to know for you right now, why is it that there's no God?
So I guess that's what I was trying to say, was the way that I come at this is to say that for the same reason that I think, I'm not trying to be, I don't know, simplistic or whatever, but for the same reason that I think that there's a rational reason that the Mesopotamian pantheon developed, that similar circumstances and events transpired to bring about the development.
Are the Mesopotamian pantheon, are they ultimate?
Ultimate. I don't know that they would have thought about them in that sense.
Did they begin to exist? Are they the source of all possibility of what is, can be, or cannot be?
That's a good question. You mean from how they would have considered them?
Yeah, because the gods of the ancient world, which obviously you have great expertise in, which I don't, none of these gods are ultimate. Okay, what I'm talking about is the God where God is ultimate, where what is eternal, absolute, and is the creator is in mind and is the source of all possibility. Your position is that does not exist. I'd like to know what your rational grounds for that, other than the fact that you believe that people have used faulty reasoning to come to believe in other gods. Okay, because it doesn't follow from that there's no God, because people.
No, I agree. I agree. And I guess what I would say is I mean, I'm sure this is all very common and low level for what I'm getting ready to say for you guys, because you seem to talk about philosophy quite a bit more than I do. But like I would obviously draw a distinction between what I believe to be the case and what I know to be the case.
Okay. So you believe there is no God. Why do you have rational grounds for that belief?
I guess what I would say is because I don't see a reason to believe that a deity exists.
Okay. Do you have a reason to believe that what is ultimate is impersonal and governs all possibility? Do you have a reason to believe that?
Something that's ultimate and impersonal?
Yeah, you will either believe that something is ultimate, dictating all possibility, or you'll reject the notion that anything is ultimate at all. Determining Sorry. Okay. So do you have a reason to believe that what's fundamental to reality, the ground of all being, is impersonal? Do you have a reason for that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think the only thing that I'd be able to say to it would be like and again, I hope I'm using the term correctly, but an inductive approach to that, where I would say, in the same way that people in the fourth millennium thought that the storm was a deity and that the sun was its own deity.
So you don't have a reason for that which is ultimate as impersonal then. You just adopt it arbitrarily?
Arbitrarily. I don't think so. I mean, again, I think I'm doing it based on a pattern that I see.
Okay. I mean, you say you don't have a reason to believe in God. That's the equivalent of saying that all the facts you're acquainted with do not necessitate referencing the necessity of God. Okay?
Okay.
Now, do you have grounds for that? How did you determine that all the facts that you're acquainted with do not necessitate referencing the necessity of God? How did you decide on that, other than questioning people's faulty reasoning in the past?
Yeah, I don't know if it's. Sorry, I'm trying to understand exactly.
You've
how you're
determined
wording this.
that all the facts that you're acquainted with do not necessitate referencing the necessity of God as the precondition of all facts. So how did you determine that?
It sounds like what you're asking, and just correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like what you're asking is, how do I know that to be the case?
No, I didn't ask you that. I said, why do you believe it?
Okay. Well, if it's why do I believe it, then again, I think it's from this sort of inductive approach to it, where it doesn't seem like. Sorry.
So induction can tell you what then is ultimate and that it's not God?
I don't think it tells me with any sort of.
Induction is just appealing to various facts around you.
Right.
And then trying to derive general or universal principles. Yes. What is ultimate will be, no pun intended, the ultimate universal. Okay?
Right.
So when you say you use induction, you're just deciding that all the facts around you do not derive from God as the ultimate universal. How did you determine that?
Oh, I see. I mean, I think I see. I guess the way that I would answer that would be sort of to draw something analogous to it, in that, again, it's sort of general, but because, the storm and the sun and, all these things were considered to be deities. And then as it turns out,
you're just appealing to your opening line of reasoning, which is the genetic fallacy.
Sure. I mean, I don't think that I could prove
Setting
that.
aside other people's faulty reasoning, you have decided that all the facts around you do not necessitate referencing the necessity of God as the precondition of all facts. How did you decide on that? Excluding people's faulty reasoning, how did you decide upon that?
I'm trying to understand what you mean by utilizing people's faulty reasoning.
You keep on going back to saying, well, these people developed, they came up with believing with these gods in an erroneous fashion. Well, so what? Okay, that's the genetic fallacy. What I want to know from you right now, you've decided that all the facts around you, okay, do not necessitate referencing what is ultimate and that it's a mind, God. How did you reason to that?
Because it doesn't, if I'm answering it, I might not be, but I'm trying, because it seems like there's no need for it.
You're restating the same claim in different words.
Sorry.
When I say you decided that all the facts around you do not necessitate referencing the necessity of God.
Yes.
So when you say there's no need to do it, you're just simply restating the same position.
I see. Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a different way to come at it then. I don't know that I can.
Because I watch a lot of these atheist talking head shows. I watch a lot of the so-called deconversion shows.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not hearing from any of the YouTube atheists who I either listen to on a regular basis, the shows that you hang out on, or the very few of them that are willing to have an interaction with myself. I'm not hearing from any of them in a concrete way why there is no God, other than this feigned, oh, I'm unconvinced.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm just sort of guessing here, but I mean, maybe that's why the approach is more of a, I don't know, what is it that said, like a lack of belief?
That's an ambiguity. Everyone who denies the existence of God lacks belief in God. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
But your position is not a mere absence of belief. Your position is there is no God.
Yeah, I do believe that. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, good. So is that rationally grounded or is it irrational?
Unless there's a specific use of the word rational here that I'm unaware of, which is entirely possible.
Do you have a reason to believe there is no God?
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like if I say it again, it's probably going to be saying the same thing. So I don't want to.
Well, you mean the genetic fallacy?
Yeah, I don't know that I would necessarily consider it to be that, but
that's a genetic fallacy. All these people in the times past, these ignorant Slavs, not that you said that, but
no,
these
definitely
people,
not.
these people, and maybe I shouldn't use those terms, but these people, they just came up with these ideas for a phenomenon controlling the physical world. Okay, so they might be wrong. The point is, that doesn't get you to your position that there's no God.
Yeah, and I think so. I feel like we're talking about maybe two different things, and maybe we're not. Maybe I'm just missing it. That's entirely possible. I think that I would say that most of what drives me to disbelieve in the divine is my experience with, and when I say experience, I mean that more than just like emotional experience, I mean like intellectual, literary, whatever. With the religions, the concrete religions like Christianity, like those that you see in the ancient Near East. So, like, if this is why I made the statement at the beginning when you asked me if I'm an atheist, I said I think so. What I mean by that is, I certainly don't know that there is no God out there ever. I don't know how I'd possibly know that.
But you believe there's no God.
Yeah, I don't. I haven't seen. So the deities that I've interacted with,
So
the deities
why do you believe there's no God?
Yeah, that's why I say I think it's inductive. So in the sense that.
But that doesn't. You've said that already. Okay, so that's the equivalent of saying that all the facts around you do not necessitate referencing the necessity of God. Okay, so how'd you determine that facts are independent of God? Do facts derive from something else that you believe is ultimate that's not God?
It's that's sort of like that sounds like a question that's probably way over my area of expertise.
The only way that you could determine that facts are unrelated to God is that you would first have to determine there's no God.
Yeah.
If you don't first determine that there is no God, then you could not ground that facts don't necessitate referencing God, could you?
Yeah. See, this is where I feel like this is why I'm trying to use the word believe, because determine seems like it's a knowledge. It seems like it's more of a knowledge claim. Maybe it's not, but it seems like it is.
Well, the difference between knowledge and belief is just sometimes a fine line and a matter of emphasis, because rarely do people have beliefs that have no warrant or justification whatsoever, and we reserve the word knowledge for the highest amount of warrant or justification, whereas belief is for lower or weaker warrant or justification. So
I guess.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I was just going to say, like this, like with something like, oh boy. See if I can dig back into my college philosophy. Who was it? Was it David Hume that had the problem of induction? Am I getting that right?
So
I think that's who it was.
Yeah.
Somebody will correct me.
So when you say you use induction, okay, you couldn't use induction to falsify God, because you would have to.
I agree.
So you first offered the genetic fallacy. The second line of reason is induction, okay? But you couldn't use induction to show that there's no relationship between facts and God unless you first determine that God does not exist.
Right. That's why I say it sounds like we're like moving into the realm of proof, and I certainly don't have anything like that.
So your God denialism then is irrational?
Maybe just for my sake, when you're using the term irrational, what do you mean?
Means that you have no reason for that belief.
I think I do have. Let me say it this way: it's the same way that I have reason that the sun will come up tomorrow.
I'm not understanding your point. Okay.
Like if I'm remembering it, it wasn't that like David Hume's big thing. Like you have no rational reason to conclude that the sun will come up tomorrow. And am I totally embarrassing myself here? Isn't that what he said?
No. I mean, I think that was his position, but as a Christian, I would disagree with him.
Sure. Yeah. No, right from that, but from I guess from my position or from my worldview.
Well,
or
what I want to know is
whatever.
you've offered two lines of reasoning why there is no God. Okay. You made an appeal to how the beliefs in gods developed in Mesopotamia. Okay, that turned out to be the genetic fallacy. Then you made an appeal to induction, which is also a fallacy, because in order to determine that all facts collectively don't indicate a universal or general principle, namely God, you would first have to determine God does not exist in order to rationally conclude there is no God. So appealing to induction doesn't get you there.
So if we're using rational in the same way that David Hume is using it, then I agree. Like again, we're so far outside of my field talking about philosophy.
You're on the Talking Head atheist shows all the time, okay, as an outspoken atheist. What I want to know from you, other than your first two lines of reasonings, which have turned out to be a fallacy in all due respect, I want to know why you believe there is no God. Because it's my position that atheists, both educated and uneducated alike, are motivated by a prime directive. They do not want there to be a God, so they collect for themselves all sorts of cliches, slogans, and catchphrases that they think are rationales, but in fact they're not. So if that's not the case with you, if your God denialism is not because you don't want there to be a God and you're just collecting atheist cliches, what is your reason why there is no God?
Yes, I mean, just to sort of maybe talk to that for a second, like I was an evangelical Christian for 26 years. I pastored a church out in Virginia. And when I went to Johns Hopkins, my first year there studying this, ancient Mesopotamian literary texts.
Didn't you go to Capital Bible Seminary?
I did, yeah.
Yeah,
studied under Todd Beale. Yeah,
that's a good seminary.
Yeah, they drilled the languages into me. I had a lot of fun there.
Okay, so your reason that there is no God is?
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to say that. Sorry, because you asked about the. Am I one of those that wants there to be no God?
Yeah,
absolutely not.
Yeah. Okay, then what's your reason? Then what's your reason that's not fallacious? That there's no God.
So I guess I'm getting hung up on fallacious, but I mean, so the reason that I determined that my belief in the God of the Bible.
I didn't mention the God of the Bible. We're talking about your atheism.
No, I'm trying to walk through the process. Was that it didn't hold, right? And so I mean, I left Christianity kicking and screaming. But then it sort of broadened to, the same reasons that I don't think that Christianity stands up as an accurate representation of reality or whatever.
How would you? Okay, so the Christian worldview, what you're just saying is simply not true, right?
Oh, sorry. The Christian worldview is not true. Yeah, I think that's the case. Yeah.
Okay. And how did you determine that?
Yes, I mean it's probably a longer conversation.
Yeah, because you just wrote a book, The Atheist Guide to the Old Testament, right? So you must have so you must have a good reason why Christianity as a worldview is categorically false. What would that be?
Yeah, I mean it's sort of multivariate. So, for example, the things that I was brought up to understand as God being providing prophetic oracles in the in the Hebrew Bible that come about in the New Testament, and Moses being the author of the Pentateuch, and this being a divinely inspired book that was inerrant. Those sorts of things are incredibly problematic.
What's problematic about the Bible? Why would any proposition whatsoever be off limits if the Christian worldview is false? Or excuse me, we shouldn't say false, because outside the Christian worldview, how could you determine that any proposition is off limits? What ultimately would make any proposition off limits?
Would make any proposition off limits.
Yeah.
I don't know that I understand.
Yeah. Well, if somebody presents to me something as a Christian to me, I say, no, I don't believe that, because that's inconsistent with what God has revealed. It's my Christian worldview. And the ultimacy there in the God of the Bible, which is the final court of appeal, which mitigates against a certain proposition. But if you object to certain propositions in this world, like it's superstitious to think that walking under a ladder is going to give you bad luck, or that there are certain errors in the Bible, what would ultimately and fundamentally ground that any proposition, including certain statements in the Bible, would be off limits?
Oh, you mean like why would like a contradiction be problematic or something like that?
Yeah, if you say, this verse in the Old Testament is off limits, and this verse in the Quran is off limits, and somebody walking under a ladder, it is off. It would, being superstitious, bad luck from that would be off limit. Why would any in a not Christian worldview, why would any proposition be off limits ultimately?
That's a good question. I don't know that I have the expertise to answer it well.
So then you have no grounds to object to any propositions from the Bible, then, do you?
Let me try to be clear. It sounds like a similar question to, I hate to keep going back to it, but it's the only thing I can think of at the moment. But like the problem with induction, like I don't have a good answer for the problem with induction.
You think that certain things in the Bible are problematic and consequently false. But in your not Christian worldview, there's no final court of appeal or ultimate state which dictates what is, can be, or cannot be to make any proposition off limits.
And I don't know that there isn't one. I just don't know that I know what it is.
Okay, if you don't know what it is, then how can you say any proposition is off limits, even including questioning the Old or New Testament?
I guess it would be based on, and I'm sure I'm saying things that you've heard before, so forgive me, but I suspect it's based on things like logic and reason.
Is there something that ultimately exists that makes what is, can be, or cannot be, including logic?
I'm not sure.
So you're using "I'm not sure" as an attack against the Bible?
I don't think I would say it that way.
Well, wait a minute. You just wrote a book called An Atheist Guide to the Old Testament. Mm-hmm. And even though we're not agreeing and I'm, hitting you with hard questions, maybe I could snag an electronic copy of your book in my DMs.
I'd be happy to send you one. Sure.
Yeah,
sure. I'll be happy to send. I can send you a PDF of it.
I'd like to read that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think I guess what I
see.
would
I'm getting a plug-in for your book.
No, I appreciate that. I think what I would say, like it's, you're probably right about, like I don't know. Again, anybody like you or anybody else listening to me, this is completely not my field. So
okay, well let's talk about your field. Let's talk about your field. Okay, you wrote a book called The Atheist Guide to the Old Testament, which I haven't had a chance to read through, and I look forward to reading it. Okay, but you obviously in that book call into question certain propositions that are either wrong or fallacious or simply are off limits for whatever reason. So in your worldview, what makes any proposition off limit, including statements in the Bible?
Yeah, I mean, I think the furthest I'd be able to, quote unquote, go back For me anyway, with my training in philosophy, which is none, would be, to say, like, I don't know, the laws of logic or something. Like, you can't have.
The laws of logic don't stand in causal relations, making what is, can be, or cannot be, other than it just stipulates that an entity is what it is in a time index, and it cannot equal or coexist with its negation. But beyond that, the laws of logic don't make what things are or can be or cannot be.
Oh, sure. Like they're descriptive. They're not prescriptive.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
just-
Oh no, I agree. I
It's
guess
just
what I'm
that in a
saying is
given
that-
time index, an apple cannot be not an apple, but the laws of logic don't dictate the properties of
Right.
the apple.
Yeah, and I guess in the same way, this is just so I'm mirroring you, so I understand. I think we agree on this.
So you're evaluating the Bible, and you're trying to lead people to believe that this is not an inerrant book. This book is not inspired by God because X, Y, and Z is problematic and is to be considered wrong or false or erroneous. Well, what in your worldview that dictates that anything is erroneous?
Yeah, I mean, just to be clear, I think my position would be that I think the fundamentalist or maybe more conservative evangelical interpretations of the biblical text have problems, right? So inerrancy, inspiration. I don't think that necessitates that Christianity is wrong. I think that it's wrong, but I don't. Like, my wife is a Christian, so I don't think that it necessitates that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and I don't think that my wife is irrational in any way in holding to her Christian faith. I don't think that it's correct. Not her. I don't. Obviously, I don't think
So when you say, well, then you believe that the Christian worldview is false.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, then what is your worldview that would falsify it?
What is my worldview that would falsify it? I don't know that I know a good answer to that.
Well, then you can't hold that Christianity is false, can you?
I think if I understand what you're asking, I think probably I operate in the same way that you could. It sounds like you could say to me, and I think you could, and you'd be justified in saying it, that I don't have a rational reason to believe that the sun will come up tomorrow, or, like I can't justify that.
Does your
and I think in this,
does your worldview provide background information in order for you to declare that anything is erroneous?
I think maybe in the sense that it doesn't, if I'm using this correctly, it doesn't cohere with reality as I see it, as I experience it.
Yeah, reality would equal your worldview. What is fundamentally your worldview that would dictate what could not be and is erroneous?
Yeah, I don't know a good answer to that other than.
So you wrote a whole book criticizing the Old Testament, and that certain things in the Old Testament are erroneous, but your worldview doesn't provide a rationale to declaring things are erroneous?
Oh, I'm sure that it does. It doesn't mean that I know what it is.
Well, then if it does, then how did you arrive at that?
How did I arrive at it?
Yeah, what is your worldview, and how does it provide for determining what is erroneous versus not?
If something contradicts, is probably a good example.
Contradicts what?
So maybe a good example would be Genesis 37, right? The story of Joseph. Like, how does Joseph get down to Egypt? Right? That's problematic in the text if you're viewing it from like a single authorship position. If you think that, not you, but if a person.
Why is it that if I don't have an answer to a question, how does it make something false? For example, did you know that we have eyewitnesses of the sinking of the Titanic. Some of them said they saw the Titanic split in half. Others said that they did not see it split in half. Does that mean the Titanic didn't sink?
Oh, no, of course not.
Okay. So what I want to know from you is, when you're evaluating any propositions, including the Old Testament and its content, and you determine that it's erroneous, I want to know what system you're operating from that gives you the ingredients by which you can declare anything as erroneous. What is your worldview? What is it that ultimately makes anything erroneous or false? Or let me put it this way: is truth and falsity apprehensible in your world?
Like ultimately?
Yeah. Is there ultimate grounds that by which we can determine that something is true or false or off limits? So, for example, so you believe certain things in the Old Testament are superstition, right?
Superstition. I don't know if I'd characterize it that way.
Are they erroneous?
It depends. I guess it depends on what we mean by that. So, for example, I don't think that 600,000 plus fighting men walked out of Egypt in the 15th century, right? But that doesn't mean that the Exodus or an Exodus event or a series of Exodus events didn't happen. And so the question is, what is the text doing? What is the text trying to say?
Is the Old Testament, is it false?
I don't know that I would characterize it that way. In the same way that I don't think I would characterize the Epic of Gilgamesh as false. If that makes sense. Like, I don't think it's...
Is that a part of your worldview?
I mean, I guess at a very basic level, it's just literary criticism, but...
Is the Epic of Gilgamesh a part of your worldview?
Part of my worldview. I don't know how you're using...
Because
I don't know how I would use the word worldview.
The Epic of Gilgamesh claims to give a creation account.
Yeah, I mean, Atrahasis does. I don't know. See, I think this is the problem, that the bigger issue that I'm trying to pull back to, or whatever, is that I think that coming to the text, any ancient text, with I don't know, like I don't want to say literalist, but an interpretive model that says, for example, okay, here's Genesis 1. Genesis 1 is relating actually how the universe was created, and so is Genesis 2. And so when there's a distinction that's drawn between those, and there are problems trying to make them align with one another, that we have to try to somehow figure out a way to make them harmonize. And I think that that's just coming to the text with, presuppositions or preconceived notions that are modern, that they wouldn't have come to them with, if that makes sense.
I'm still wondering how your worldview falsifies or makes any proposition in the Old Testament erroneous. Do you have a worldview that provides for that?
I don't know that I understand how you're using worldview. I don't understand. Honestly, I don't know that I've thought about.
Your worldview is whatever you conceive to be ultimate, dictating all other sub-beliefs in the world around you. It's your interconnected web of beliefs by which you interpret everything. And either in that worldview, there is something that is ultimate, the ground of all being, that dictates what is, can be, or cannot be, or you are without that within your worldview. So that when you make evaluations as to whether your hair is parted correctly, or you like the taste of this cheeseburger, or that this politician's lying, or that Moses is not the author of the Pentateuch, or whatever,
right?
I want to know, what is your worldview that allows you to make any determination of true, false, good or bad, real or erroneous? What is that worldview?
Yeah, I don't know that I have a good answer to it, except to say, things that, and it just sounds so generic when I say it, but if it comports with reality as I understand it.
Reality would just be another term for your worldview. So what would that be?
Yeah. I don't know that I have a good answer for that.
So you don't even know what reality is then?
I don't know what reality is.
Yeah, that's a question. Do you know what reality is?
Yeah, no, I'm asking it out loud for my benefit. Do I know? It's that question seems a lot deeper.
You say certain things don't comport with reality. Is reality the same thing as your worldview?
It sounds like that's how you're defining it, and I'm fine with that.
I don't see how there would be a difference between reality and a worldview.
Yeah, I don't. That's not really a word that I use an awful lot. So that's just me not.
Yeah, you're all encompassing view of everything. Reality, all encompassing.
Yeah.
Worldview. Okay. So
yeah.
Do you have a basic, clear worldview that will allow you grounds to evaluate whether propositions are acceptable or not acceptable?
Sure, and I feel like we're starting to go in circles a little bit here, which is probably my fault. But if something follows logic, but again, I think I've said that, and it's not really helping because I'm not saying it any more clearly, which isn't helpful. So I mean, I think, for example, when I read through the flood story and I see 40 days and I see 150 days, or if I read through the creation story and I see, man created on the sixth day at the end of creation, and then I read through Genesis 2 and I see that he's created at the beginning, and then there's a separation of woman's created. In my mind.
Well, hold on a second. Okay, you're an educated man. Who says that the Genesis 2 is chronological?
Who says that Genesis 2 is chronological? Well, the text itself does.
Well, I've read the text. I don't see any conflict between Genesis 2 and Genesis 1, where it's very clear that we have a chronological sequencing in Genesis 1. All we have is just a recapping or a zooming in on Genesis 2. It's not necessarily chronological. And in fact, we have people who write books who do a chronological. For example, people who write political memoirs, sometimes they do a chronological sequencing, and then in following chapters, they'll just go into zooming in on certain events. Genesis 2 is not necessarily chronological.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way the Hebrew actually lays it out, though, in its syntactic forms, I think actually is laying it out chronologically. But the problem is coming at it, and this is why the chapter in the book about the authorship of the Pentateuch focuses in on this, because it's not an issue for biblical scholars to look at this, because
you're dead certain that Genesis 2 is chronological.
Dead certain. Sorry, in this conversation, I'm thinking through all your words now, just so that I make sure I understand the meaning behind them.
When I read Genesis 2 in various English translation, and obviously, you know Hebrew and I don't, but when I read all of the various English translation, I don't see why it necessitates that it has to be chronological.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that the Hebrew ipso facto dictates that it's chronological?
I mean, ipso facto. Does it definitely? No, I mean, I don't know that I could prove to you.
Okay, so then it's not necessarily a contradiction. All right, okay.
Right. No, I agree with you. It's not necessarily a contradiction. I actually say this in the book several places. Like the Genesis 37 thing. The Genesis 37, I mean, I think it's a contradiction, but it's not necessarily one. So, I mean, if you read through it, you could say, and people have, I just think it's an unnecessary stretch to say that the Midianites sold Joseph, the brothers sold Joseph to the Midianites, who sold him to the Ishmaelites, who took them down to Egypt, who sold them back to the Midianites, who then sold them to Egypt. Like you could possibly make that work. The problem is that I think it's totally misunderstanding how the text is put together, and it strains credulity. If that makes any sense, because there's two different stories, right? There's two different versions of the Joseph story that are brought together in Genesis 37. So it's not something that I think at the end of the day you can say, aha, this is a proof, I guess, in that mathematical sense. But it's something that it is the model that best explains the data points, in my opinion.
But your worldview doesn't explain anything, does it?
I think there's a difference, and I could be wrong, but I think there's a difference between what I know about what provides for, I think that's the word you use, provides for my worldview, and what provides for my worldview, right? So like I might not know all the details of something, but I see in practice enough that convinces me that X is the case. I don't know how that all functions. Like I don't understand the Big Bang, and science is not my thing at all. But the products of that, I think, allow me to function in a way that seems to work, to put it really roughly. I don't know, is consistent and.
Is there something in your worldview that connects all the dots, or makes anything?
Maybe.
No. Do you believe that there's anything in your world that connects the dots between particulars of existence and makes what things are, can be, or cannot be? Is there something that imposes that?
Imposes that, like as an agent would?
Yeah, because you're trying to examine the Bible, the Old Testament, and say, well, these dots connect, these dots don't connect, and all that. Is there something that secures what is, can be, or cannot be? Is there something that does that in your worldview?
Oh, I have no idea.
Well, then why are you criticizing the Bible?
I guess I'm doing it based on maybe higher level, not higher as in
your
better,
worldview
but,
doesn't. Your worldview doesn't provide for critiquing anything.
Well, it seems to. I just don't know where it comes from.
What do you mean? It seems to.
I guess it works, practically speaking.
Well, how do in order for something to work, something has to be imposing continuity and regularity. Is the continuity and regularity real?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it seems like it is.
Okay, so then all you're just simply talking about is it seems that way. Well, you could be wrong about it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's no question.
And you could be completely wrong about your critique about the Bible, right?
No question. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And you're willing to risk your eternal destiny on it?
I don't like it. But I have to go with what I think is true.
But what
I don't like it.
But what you think is true has no metaphysical basis. There's nowhere in your worldview to ground truth. In the Christian worldview, and you've studied theology, you went to Capital Bible Study, and you would know from the Christian worldview, truth is that which conforms to the mind of God and how He reveals it. But in your worldview, what does truth conform to? And please don't say reality.
No, yeah, I won't, because I don't know is the answer.
So when you reject Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, as Creator, you can't say what is true or false, can you? Your worldview doesn't provide for it. There's no metaphysical grounding to say what is, can be, or cannot be.
It seems like the difference between me knowing what grounds it, and I'm like what
I want to know why you believe this stuff. You see, you believe that you do not need God. You do not need the God of the Bible as your creator and Lord and Savior and sustainer. So I want to know, because that is a grandiose statement in the course of human history. You've solved the biggest question of all human existence. You don't need God. You don't need the God of the Bible. So I want to know what you do believe, not necessarily what you know, what do you do believe that makes Jesus Christ as Lord and Creator utterly non-existent and superfluous? What do you believe ultimately about your world that makes Jesus Christ as Creator unnecessary?
I think it's probably coming at it from the other direction. So what I mean by that is, as I said before, the reason that I left the faith was because as I began to engage with, for example, where the Bible finds its origins, and noticed that the Hebrew Bible seems to be another ancient Near Eastern text.
Could you be wrong about that?
Oh yeah, sure.
Did you put that in your book?
That I could be wrong?
Yeah.
It's probably my motto.
But did you put it in the book?
That I could be wrong.
Yeah. So you believe that the text of the Old Testament is not the product of God inspiring holy men of the past to write down the message that He wanted. That's your position.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. And how do you know that?
Logic. See, the way that you're using the word "know" there.
Why do you believe that?
Okay. So why I believe it is, given what I know about ancient Near Eastern culture and literature, the Bible fits in. The Hebrew Bible fits in very well with other ancient Near Eastern texts.
That doesn't mean it's not inspired by God.
But you're asking me why I believe.
Yeah.
Right.
But it doesn't. But it doesn't follow then that it's not inspired.
Right. You're asking me why I believe it, though, which I think is different from why it necessarily follows. And I wouldn't say that it necessarily follows. Right. I would say I believe it.
So the Bible could possibly be the inspired word of God in your view?
Yeah, sure.
Did you put that in your
I don't think it's very likely. Well, I mean, I think that's
why is it not likely? What would make that off limits?
I feel like we're sort of circling back here.
Well, I'm not trying to give you a hard time, but you know.
Oh no.
You're an atheist talking head. You're a really educated guy, and I respect that. And you've written a book, An Atheist Guide to the Old Testament, and I think that you're trying to get people to stop believing that the Bible is the Word of God, aren't you?
No. What I'm sorry. If you're asking me, do I believe that it's inspired and inerrant? I'm trying to show in the book that I don't think that that's the case. My goal is not to turn people from Christianity. Again, that's my wife's a Christian. I don't really have any interest in that. What I do think, though, and this is in the book, I think it's in the conclusion and in the introduction, definitely in the conclusion, is that we all need to start on the right footing when it comes to the Hebrew Bible. And the right footing, in my opinion.
But there is no right and wrong in your world. There's nothing that grounds it.
But I don't know that that's true.
Okay. Well, is there something that ultimately dictates what is, can be, or cannot be, and what is right, wrong, good, or bad in your world?
I'm sure that there is.
Oh, what is it?
Logic.
Well, right. I mean, I think we're sort of back to this question. And just because from like an epistemological standpoint,
well, if just because I just want to know if you're offering us a nothing burger, or there's some meat behind it. You know, like where's the beef? Okay,
hold on, because I'm gonna have to. Sorry, I don't mean to. I'm gonna have to go in about 3 minutes. But,
no, that's fine. You've been more than gracious, and I appreciate it.
No, this is actually this has actually been very nice. I guess what I would say is, if you want, send me an email to digitalhammurabi@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to send you a PDF of the book.
Thank you.
we've priced it so that it's the Kindle version. I think is like $10, but that's absolutely fine. I'll send you a copy.
You know what? Don't
But
bother
if you-
sending it. You wrote the book. I'll pay for it online. Okay, don't worry about it.
Oh, I appreciate that. But if you want, definitely read through it. Again, you seem to know far more about philosophy than I do. So like I tried to participate as much as I could.
And we didn't agree on a lot of things, but I didn't call you stupid. I didn't call you names because you want to know it. You're conducting yourself like an adult, and
I
an
appreciate
educated
that.
person. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry that I'd probably be nicer if I had more concrete answers for some of these things, but there's just a lot that I don't know.
Well, I just wish you should just send the message to all your atheist friend on all these Talking Head atheist shows. I just like one of them to present a case why there's no God, because I'm not hearing from any of these talking heads an answer to that.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah, because he has to go.
To me? Sure. I got another minute.
I have to go too. So go ahead.
Hammurabi. What I think Darth was getting at is that you make a lot of statements with confidence, as if they could not be otherwise, and then upon being pressed, you say, "Yeah, it could be otherwise." So, why the first demeanor when the second demeanor exists?
Sure. I think that's a good question. So I think it's akin to if you were to say to me, hey, is the sun going to come up tomorrow at 6:12 or whatever? And I look at my phone and I say, yeah, it'll definitely come up tomorrow at 6:12. And you say, well, metaphysically, how do you know that to be the case? Well, that's a much more stringent question, right? And so then it's like, well, I guess from an inductive standpoint, I guess I could be wrong technically about that, but maybe colloquial is a good way to say that, or based on the systems of interpretation that we utilize in our day-to-day lives. That's what I'm speaking from. But yeah, I mean, when you get to ask questions about problems of induction and things, I'm outside of my field, and I'm gonna have to cop to that, right? So yeah, I hope that answered it.
Can I ask a question quickly before you go?
Sure.
Just, so, what do you think about that logically, right? If you think
you.